Chris Mannix for the crossover alongside Michael Pena and Ben Pickman. Guys, the Lakers are getting healthy as the season comes to an end and are battling for that number 6 seed in the Western Conference. Or are they? Are the Lakers better off finishing in the play-in and thereby avoiding the Clippers in the first round? Or should they be fighting for as high a seed as they can possibly get? Michael, what do you think?
No matter what happens, the Lakers are looking at a daunting path back to the finals, but they would lose to the Clippers if they played them in the first round. So I'll go with the play-in as a better option. It let them get warmed up a bit in a game that actually matters. And assuming they defeat the Warriors or the Grizzlies or the Spurs or whoever, they can then go into a series against the Phoenix Suns where they match up very well, especially in the front court. From there, they can build momentum, get healthy, figure out a playoff rotation, and continue on what appears to be one of the hardest postseason roads LeBron James has ever had to travel. So I don't think there are any good options for the Lakers right now, but seeing Kawhi Leonard and Paul George in a 7-game series right off the bat is not the route that they want.
Yeah, I agree with Michael on this one. I think you would rather almost be in the play-in tournament than have to play the Clippers in the first round. Michael mentioned it, right? The Suns present a pretty good matchup, relatively speaking, for the Lakers. And you look at Utah and the injuries to Donovan Mitchell and Mike Conley, it might be an easier return or an easier route to face Utah, despite them being, the best team in the league all year round in the first round. A few days ago, I talked to Clipper Darrell, who's, of course, the famous NBA Clipper superfan. And he mentioned to me that if the Lakers and Clippers meet in the first round, it's going to be bananas, and you're going to see a lot of beefing and a lot of cussing, a series you've never seen before. And honestly, I don't think the Lakers right now would level up to the Clippers from a physicality standpoint, from a talent standpoint, with LeBron and AD still working themselves back. And, Clipper Darrell, of course, picked the Clippers to win that series, and it's hard to go against him on that one. I think the Clippers right now are certainly the better team in the Western Conference, and if the two matched up in the first round, I think it'd be an early exit for the Lakers. So
I love that we're citing Clipper Darrell as a source here on the show for what's happening. But I hate to say it, I agree with you guys. I can't believe it. The Lakers, look, we can acknowledge there is a huge risk to dropping into the play-in. They could run into a white-hot Steph Curry, a white-hot Ja Morant, somebody. They could lose a couple of games and wind up out, especially in the precarious position they're in with LeBron just coming back from injury, Anthony Davis having a couple of injuries he's dealing with, Dennis Schroeder, we don't know the status of him going into the postseason. So there's enormous risk there. But over a 7-game series, you can safely argue that this team is better off going up against a banged-up Utah team or Phoenix, who they just beat without LeBron James a few days ago. I mean, I think strategically, it's the right thing to do to fall into that 7-8 range. Now, I will also say this about the Clippers. I'm not as bullish on the Clippers, perhaps, as you guys are, Ben. Ben, I think the Clippers, again, on paper, a lot of talent. But every time they get punched in the mouth, especially and including last year, they tend to fold. So for me, until the Clippers show the type of heart that you need to be a Western Conference champion or an NBA champion or just to beat the Lakers, even if they faced off, Ben, in a 7-game series in the first round, I would probably still favor the Lakers.
I mean, I do hear what you're saying, but of course, Ty Lue brings a different dynamic to this Clippers team, and certainly the combination of Kawhi and Paul George, they have the talent up front to match up with the Lakers. The Clippers themselves, still working their way back from a health standpoint as well, so they're not nearly, out of the woods from an injury standpoint, but they're not dealing with the same level of injury that AD and LeBron are having. And, a lot of pressure, I think, is on the Clippers in that potential first-round series, considering Kawhi Leonard's contract situation and what happened in last year's postseason, as you said, Chris. But if they are able to get through the Lakers, rather, in the first round, their path certainly gets a lot easier, and I think that will be a big weight off of their shoulders, the organization, the players themselves, because they look at, I think, Utah and Phoenix and say, we can beat those teams, Denver as well, and the path to the finals gets a lot easier if LeBron James is no longer in the postseason.
Michael, are you buying that? Because I think Ben's drinking the Kool-Aid there a little bit. The Ty Lue brings a different dynamic. Sounds a lot like the Doc Rivers brings a different dynamic, which sounded a lot like Kawhi Leonard brings a different dynamic. And in all those circumstances, they still did not get out of the second round of the playoffs. So all these new dynamics over the last 5-6 years have not helped the Clippers advance past the second round.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty high on the Clippers. They were my preseason pick to win the championship, but I'm not backing off of it. I like Serge Ibaka, that addition. I really love Rondo in their rotation, and a lot of my confidence in the Clippers beating the Lakers is just as much about my doubts in what the Lakers have and how their roster has been constructed this season and the injury issues that they faced. So I do like the Clippers. I like their offense. I like how they're shooting the ball from behind the 3-point line. It's very potent. So I understand the chemistry issues from last year, but a lot of those pieces are gone, and Kawhi is still an absolutely incredible basketball player, and I'll go to the mat with him anytime.
All right. Well, we're going to save this tape because you guys know what the definition of insanity is, right? Expecting this, betting on the same thing to happen over and over again and seeing it happen over and over again or something like that. We all know what I'm talking about. For more, check us out over at si.com.